Since 2020, a special policy has been in place allowing U.S. border officials to almost immediately expel migrants that are trying to get into the United States. That policy is going away tonight. For weeks now, the Biden administration has been preparing for what could be a tidal wave of migrants at the border once Title 42 lifts. On Tuesday, border agents encountered more than 10,000 migrants. CNN's Rosa Flores is in El Paso for us once again. And Rosa, you were able to ride along with the National Guard to get a sense of what things are looking like. What did you see?
Well, Kate, just a lot of heartbreak and desperation. I mean, there are hundreds of migrants who were huddled under blankets. I talked to one family who said that their daughter couldn't stop shaking. They were asking National Guard members if they could start a fire in this camp just to try to stay warm. It was also very dusty, so it was very difficult for these migrants. They were trying to protect themselves from all of the elements, including the dust, which was very severe. And at the same time, there were migrants who were crossing the concertina wire and turning themselves into immigration authorities. And as we watched across the border, there were even more individuals. There was a group who appeared to be trying to figure out how to cross the border. Now, from talking to some of these migrants, they were, some of them confused about Title 42. They didn't know what it was. And others said that they wanted to cross before Title 42 ended because they were told, they believed, and this is part of the misinformation that we've been reporting on, that they believed that they'd have a better opportunity before Title 42 lifted. So a lot there, just a lot of heartbreaking stories. A lot of these migrants just really hope for opportunity in the United States, and they see this border wall and they see hope because they believe that they're just that much closer to getting into the United States. Kate.
And still such a big uncertainty of what's going to happen after tonight. And that's, you know, every single one of these numbers, as you know, and you've been reporting on, is a person and a family. Rosa, thank you. Appreciate it, Rosa. She's been there in El Paso. She'll continue to be reporting on this. So when Title 42 officially ends tonight, the policy of the United States essentially returns to what it was pre-2020, the decades-old section of the U.S. Code that lays the ground rules for processing migrants. It's called Title 8. Here's a little bit of how it works. The federal government is required to give asylum seekers an opportunity to make their case. That's called a credible fear interview. And what it essentially is a chance for people to explain why they left their country and why they fear they will face persecution if sent back. If customs officials do not see enough there, or the migrant does not request asylum, they can be put into expedited removal proceedings and deported back to their country. Now, people from certain countries, including Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, Venezuela, they also can be deported to Mexico under this policy. Here's a difference, though, from Title 42. And if you are sent back under Title 8 authority, you're subject to a multi-year ban from the United States. Listen to this.
Title 8 of the United States Code, our traditional immigration authorities actually deliver a consequence, because when someone is removed, when someone does not qualify for relief and is removed from the United States, they face an at least 5-year bar from admission into the United States. So the consequence is going to be more severe.
So there's that. But now, if an immigration officer sees credible evidence of an asylum claim, that can trigger an often years-long process, very separate from what we were discussing, as that claim then needs to be proven in immigration court. Those folks can stay in the United States during that process, either in a long-term detention facility or they're released into the community with a commitment to check in and attend all court hearings. Now, keep in mind, a majority of asylum claims that make it to the court are eventually denied. And there's already a backlog of over 2 million pending cases in U.S. immigration courts right now. John.
All right. Thanks so much, Kate. As we keep saying, Title 42 expires at 11:59 p.m. tonight. The countdown quite literally on, a little bit more than 12 hours from now. So what's going on at the White House with this deadline so fast approaching? CNN's Priscilla Alvarez is there. Priscilla, what are they doing behind you right now? Are they war rooming this? What are they all looking for?
They're watching closely. They're looking at the numbers, and they all know, White House officials and administration officials I've talked to that this is going to be a challenge, and it may not be one just for days, but also for weeks. And it is a challenge for two reasons, John. One, for the reasons that you heard there from Rosa, humanitarian concerns, but also because of logistics. This isn't just about going back to a decades-old protocol. It's processing people, an unprecedented number of people under that protocol, and that creates a severe bottleneck. And that's the concern, getting enough capacity, enough people, enough transportation to deal with that. Now, that also includes removing some because of those legal consequences under Title VIII that you heard from Kate. For those who aren't removed and are being processed, for families, for example, that could be putting them on what they call an alternative to detention. That could be a home curfew that we were talking about earlier, as well as a GPS ankle monitor as they work through the deportation process or even the asylum process. So all these measures taken together are what they're talking about in the building behind me and in the Department of Homeland Security to try to manage the flow. But of course, there's the politics of it all. And that is what President Biden knows he's going to have to navigate on an issue that has really been a political vulnerability. And he was asked about this just yesterday. Take a listen.
Well, we've had chaos at the border for a number of years. We have to fully fund the border security effort.
And that's really the bottom line, John. The administration says they're doing all of they can to deal with this unprecedented mass migration in the Western Hemisphere, but it is ultimately on Congress to pass immigration reform and reform what both sides of the aisle agree is an outdated system.
I think everyone agrees on that. Priscilla Alvarez, thank you so much for your reporting. Sarah?
A brand new wrinkle this morning as Title 42 comes to an end. The Supreme Court just weighed in on an immigration case that would make it easier for non-U.S. citizens to challenge their removal orders in federal court. CNN's Jessica Schneider joins us more with this. Jessica, this is new, just coming into us. Break this down for us.
Yes, Sarah, the Supreme Court actually just issuing a flurry of opinions this morning. So the first one, as you mentioned, siding with this transgender woman from Guatemala. She'll now be able to continue her fight in federal court. She's been arguing she should not have been deported to Guatemala because she faces these very real threats of sexual discrimination and assault. Now, she had lost her appeal before an immigration court, but now all of the Supreme Court justices are agreeing that she can continue to challenge her deportation now at the federal appeals court. So this case really should make it easier for non-citizens to challenge their removal orders in federal court. I'll also mention one other fascinating decision from the court today. They actually upheld a California law that was enacted in 2018 that places strict rules on the pork that is sold in that state. It's called Proposition 12. It only allows pork sold from pigs that were raised in a humane way. Specifically, they need to be housed in spaces where they're allowed to roam freely. Now, this was a challenge from pork producers because they said that they would be facing obstacles if the court sided with these activists. But the court today siding with them, saying that nothing about the law violates the Constitution provisions concerning interstate commerce. So, Sarah, a very interesting decision from this conservative court actually siding with a provision that was enacted by people in the very liberal state of California.
All very interesting decisions. These decisions tend to come down during this hour. Thank you so much for that, Jessica Snyder, live there.